Hello, everyone. I am Daniel Salinas, and I will be giving the panelists today around GitHub and collaborative coding. I welcome you all. I just want you to guys put on the chat if you can hear me and answer the question of how many of you guys code and have used GitHub before. Just write a yes, I have used GitHub before, or no, I have never used it on the chat, just to start activating and kind of like getting to know each other and the audience a bit more. Can you guys type on the chat, yes, I have used GitHub, or no, I haven't used it before? And I just activated. It should let you. Okay, some have never used it. Some people cannot put things on the chat, so I just activated. Try again, give it a try, see if it works. Some people have to use it. They're sending to direct. Some have never used it. Some says that the chat is disabled, but they have used GitHub. Some people can use it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start by explaining a bit of like, what are we going to do today? And how do you master actually collaborating with someone else on GitHub? It's something not too easy, but it's important to get the main idea of what it is, and also to start to get good practices. I'm going to start by giving a basic analysis and information for those of you that haven't used GitHub or have no idea what it is. And I'm also going to try to do some tips of experts for those that are a bit more knowledgeable about GitHub and probably have used it before. So I'm going to try to go to those audiences, and I like just one patient from both to kind of like understand that some of the stuff you're not going to get, and some of the stuff you probably already know. Okay. So the first thing that we need to know is, what is GitHub and how is it divided? Okay, so there are some key elements around this lecture that you will need to get familiar with. The first one is, what is a repository? What does merging a code means? And what is a conflict resolution? So those things can be kind of like super not known by you guys, but they're important. So a repository is just a place on the internet that stores your code. Okay, so think about it from the perspective of, you have different types of files that are being edited in code, and you get them all like into some sort of Google Drive, but in your local own laptop or PC. Okay, now there's collaboration on those repositories, which is pretty much what GitHub and other platforms have created. There's also GitLab, for example. They are managing softwares online that can help you collaborate. Okay, so if you're trying to edit code with someone else and do a project together, you might need to use this sort of GitHub and repositories to be able to get into a project. I always imagine it as a file, as a project. Okay. I just want to stop in here, and I want to get a bit into how does that look like. But I want you guys to put me on the chat or on the questions if you're following up with me, if you understood what a repository is. I just want to make sure you guys are listening to me correctly. So thumbs up, yes, I understood what a repository is, or can you please go back again to it? And I also think that, Salma, you're raising your hand. Not, if I'm not mistaken, just put on the chat. I know there's people like want to talk, and we'll allow questions mainly at the end, but if you have one now, just put on the chat. Okay. People got it. Say some can hear, but haven't used GitHub, but have been programming for a long time. Okay, that's great. And that happens. Like sometimes we know what to do and we know how to code, or we can use ChatGPT or other tools, but then it's like, what, right? What do you do after that? So this is kind of like the code space. And you can choose different types of code space, okay? So what you have to understand is it's like creating a file and creating a drive for your document, okay? So it's not about how do you manage to submit into somewhere or like a Turnitin. No, it's like a drive. It's like a drive for code. That's where it is. Okay, and you can choose the different kind of like virtual machines. And this is for the guys who already know what's a repository, trying to expand that knowledge. Is that essentially what's happening behind is that GitHub is creating a container, a Docker, and it's running a virtual machine. So a repository is really not just like a drive, it's like a machine itself that's bringing you all together and simulating if you guys were only on one machine. That's what's happening on the background. But you don't need to know that. You just need to know how to use it. Okay. So how does that look like? This looks like this. You got a code editor on one side. So that can be anything. That can be Visual Studio Code, that can be Replit, and some sort of any other code. Then you have a browser and you have a command line, right? The command terminal of your computer, or a terminal in your Windows computer if you're on a Windows computer, and that communicates with GitHub. And it communicating with GitHub using GitHub CLI, which is pretty much just an infrastructure. And it's the one that you're seeing there, which is a virtual machine, a machine that's simulated, that has a container on top. It's a Docker container that has all of the different languages in an environment that you need, and that everyone is going to share. Okay. Now, I want to give you an overview on how to actually create one of these coding spaces. So to create a coding space, you need to go to GitHub, right? And kind of like go to Haikus for code spaces, and you will find templates, or you can just pop up in GitHub, right? And when you go to GitHub, and if you guys want to try it right now, I'm not going to kind of like follow you step by step on how to do it, because I'm not here to show you how to create an account on GitHub. I know you guys are clever and can do that. Once you get to GitHub, you're going to see a lot of different bottoms and kind of like be a bit lost. But what you're really looking for is to create a project and to create a repository. Okay. So you go ahead and create a new repository, and you're going to have some running kind of like application steps that you will need to follow just to ensure that whatever you're doing makes sense. Okay. So the way I always imagine Git is you're trying to send changes you do in Visual Studio Code to the cloud. So the way to do it is methodically to do something called commits. So commits are ways to track that you have made changes on your code. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump a bit into that. And it's what is committing? Committing means I have a repository in GitHub, and I have my local environment in Visual Studio Code or in any other code editor. Okay, what you do is you edit on your Visual Studio Code or any code editor, and you go to your terminal and you do a commit. Okay, so the commit is going to be pretty much just like, and there's a question, guys, right there. If you can go to the pool and just answer where are you joining us from, that'll be great. But while you answer that, you have to understand that your changes in your computer need to be updated manually every time you change them, because it's not the drive, right? Our laptop is not Google Drive. So you will need to do something and run a command to commit them, or click this button in Visual Studio Code that says commit. Okay. And that can be easily done, and it's an easy command. You don't really need to like go crazy around it. If you forget the command, you can always ask like pretty much ChatGPT about the command. The command is really, really, really easy. It's git commit, and then you put a dash m, and you put the name of that commit. So I'm going to give you guys an example. I'm going to stop sharing the presentation for a second, and I'm going to share my terminal. So this is my terminal, and what I'm doing is a commit. I have a project, right? Monday, August the 28th, and I was doing a function for giving information about a product to a user, okay? And I finished editing Visual Studio Code. I went to the file of this product. I literally just hit this git start first to start my repository, and then git commit -m, and that's going to commit the changes. So it creates a dot in the timeline, committing that dot. It's creating the dot on the timeline for you to say to your computer, I made the change in this file. Then you can keep changing the file, right? And keep changing it, keep committing. You can do different changes. I try to all the time organize it through workflows and functions and features, okay? So this is for the pros that have probably already done this. If you have already committed things and are familiar with this, what you need to know is never like stop committing stuff. Try to commit as many steps as you can, because that way you can always go back without losing stuff. It's like on the old days when we need to save like a Word document. It's like save it as much as you can. And git commit is just a way of saving those things. Now, once you have many commits already done, you do something called git push, okay? So git push is take all of my commits and push them to GitHub, okay? And that is pretty much like to a branch in GitHub, right? It has to be sent to somewhere in GitHub. So what I suggest to you is that you always have a clarity on your mind of what is the structure of your files in GitHub. And we're going to show you a bit of that, but just bear with me. Git push origin main, it's usually sending it to the main branch of your origin repository in GitHub, okay? How do you connect your laptop to GitHub? So when you're cloning your project, you go to any project on GitHub, and you're going to see something that says clone, okay? So you're going to copy whatever says clone, and you're going to hit up some git clone, and then you're going to paste the link that this GitHub repository is giving you, so that you have everything that's on the cloud in your computer. This is the way to extract things that are out there, that's code that's being used by or created by many other people, okay? Now, you can also do this without the terminal. You can just click commit on your Visual Studio Code, and you'll be set up for success. You can add the changes. You can commit your state changes, right? Just type a commit message to put a name on that one, and you can publish it just like this without the need of having to do git push, okay? Now, I want to show how do you create one of these extensions, because I think it's important that you understand how do you get to that point, okay? So how am I able to see all of this stuff in GitHub, and how am I able to do not put the terminal stuff? And again, this is for more advanced people if you're already used to it. If not, it's also good, but if not, it's good to have a clarity of how this works. This is an extension that's called Fiery Flows, and it's interesting because it allows you to create and kind of like personalize your own stuff. You can kind of like go in different code spaces, right? And kind of like edit different text of the personalization of any code that you want and run an application with someone. This is the way you create a new repo. So for those of you that are starting and don't know how to actually kind of like jump into the code itself, I want to show you how to create a new repository and how to start and how to name it and what are the step-by-step things that you need to do to have your own, okay? Because what we want is to work in a project in where we can have it. So let's say we're going to do the Hello World repository name, okay? So You go ahead, you click the button, create one new, you're gonna see your user profile, and then you're gonna see the name of your repository. That's pretty much you gotta know. Just put a name and grab a description. Is it simple? I want you guys to tell me on the chat or on a question, yes, we got it. We didn't know this, we did know that. I want just you to tell me, I know how to create a repository now, and I 20 minutes ago didn't know how to. Or I do not know how to create it yet. Just put on the chat. And there's a small question around big or small the commit. I think you got that one, but I just want a confirmation that you guys are listening and you know how to create a repo. Okay, you guys do know, you understand how it works. Okay, someone still didn't understand the committing part. We're gonna get back to it. I just want you to imagine that it's a timeline and you're trying to save as much as possible your work and your edits. Okay. Now, I want you to understand that creating the repo is as simple as putting the name, but you can make it a bit more. And that a bit more is you can add a description, you can kind of play around with visibility and also with privacy policies. And you can also select, right, if you want to initialize a repository with a README or not. And I want to understand if that's a README or what it is a README. A README is just pretty much a file that says like, hey, you get a README, and this is because in here I have a lot of instructions for you to understand what is in here, because you can structure this in your own way. So a README will usually have explanation, introduction, what's the project about. We're gonna walk you on the last part of the seminar on a small kind of like example of how this looks like in real life, and we're gonna do it all. But I just want you to understand it's a file that you have to read to understand the whole project. And then once you do it, you just create it, and you just literally click create repository. Then you're gonna commit your first change. And that can be even in GitHub. You don't need to have Visual Studio Code to edit your repository in GitHub. You can directly do it in the GitHub, but, and this is important, it's not a good practice to do that, because many other people can be editing at the same time, because you can get something wrong because you don't have full control. So just use it when you really need to, or it's like an emergency. Know that you can change and commit changes from GitHub. In this case, you're going to see like a local file that says README, and in the upper right corner of the file, you're going to see an edit button to just click on edit, and you're able to see a preview of what was before. And in the text box, you can type whatever you want, and you can pretty much just commit the changes. It will show the difference. There's a button that helps you for that. That's for the pros that already know this. If you click show the difference, you will see what happened before and what's coming in now. Okay. Now, the thing that's super important is if you click commit changes, you're going to see a commit message. Okay. And you can commit that change to different paths of your code. So this is another concept. Imagine the code as a tree, and you can commit wherever you want in the branches of that tree. So you're going to have like a code that's your main branch, right? And where your code is like aligning and everything is kind of like going towards that line. And then you're going to have another branch. So you can take a commit and do a change. Why is that? Because if you want to be working in some files of the code, but not some other files, how would you change something without changing the other if they are relating together? So it's like a sub project that can then later join the main project. So you can do some changes in here on these files, and then you can merge that path of the project with the main one. And on your main one, you always have the whole thing of the project. okay? So what you do is you can commit directly to the main branch, your change, if that's what you want to do, or you can create a new branch. What do I do? What I do is every single time that I'm going to do a new feature or that I'm going to do a new part of the code, I create a new branch with the name of that feature. Because if I messed it up, I can always delete that branch, or I can always edit, or if I want to merge it, I can merge it, okay? So this change is in here, just a small change. We just literally did a really a small change. We changed it to I love coffee, pigs, and dancing. So it can be the branch coffee, pigs, and dancing, right? And we can put, instead of Octopath patch 1, we can put Octocat pigs, dancing, and coffee. And that will be your branch for that edit. And you can propose the change. And when you propose the change, it will create a new branch, okay? So someone is saying, Sate, so if we create commenting system for the block app and we should better create a branch for this feature and then merge it with the main or master, yes, that's exactly what you need to do. So if you want to do the commenting side of your app, or if you want to do the feature of the camera, or if you want to do the feature of the users or the settings, you create a branch that says settings. Because everyone else that wants to go and work on the settings can go into that branch and change stuff without deleting the whole project if they messed it up. So it's a way to protect yourself. And the more you will be coding, the more you will be collaborating with other people, the less you will have to get to do this stuff, and kind of like the bigger the branches can be, because you also don't want to have like 50 branches. But it's a good start. Something important about the branches that I didn't mention is you usually have like a branch that you merge everything to that branch and then to the main branch. Why? Because you also want to have like a stage of development that is for test or for development, and the other one that is in production or out there with the users, live, published, okay? So those are two important branches to know about: the developer dev branch and the main branch, and the rest are features. So why? What you're going to do is you're going to take all of the features and always merge with the development. That's like your beta, right? And once you're sure that you want to have that beta in development and it's awesome, you can then merge it with the main and publish, okay? That's going to help you. And for all of the ones that already know this, that's going to help you to do a continuous integration in the future, which means that whenever you push to the main, it updates on my server, okay? Instantly. That's deployed. So it's a good practice not to always merge with the main, but with the development branch. And then from the development branch to the main, because you will know which one is in production. So you can keep developing and then already have a way to publish. And that's going to help you to create things faster, to iterate faster, because you would be able to have something out, get feedback from the user, which is the most important thing of everything, fast, and then come back and deploy. Okay. Now, how do you merge a branch? That's important. How do you create a pull request of merging? That's how it's called. And why is it called? Because I want my branch to merge your branch or the main one. So I create a pull request to you. Okay. And that's called a PR, pull request. So it's like, oh, can you make me the pull request? It's, can you send me your branch? Okay. Questions, guys. I know you're probably having a lot of questions. Say it. Beta quality in develop, branch and stable and tested in main. Yes. So you got beta quality in develop, and then your production in the main. That's how it's called, the stable version. Then when we merge the branches, how is all the code sorted? Which code goes first and which goes later? So when you merge, and we're gonna see an example, everything merges that you have committed on that brand. So it's kind of like it all mixes together, and you're not going to be able to say this or that. That's why you want to change the files inside the branch, because your branch has, or in theory, it should only have edited what you want to edit for that feature. Okay, I'm going to show you a bit later on how it looks like on the real example of what really gets passed on, but everything gets passed on when you do a pull request, everything that's inside that branch. Okay, and so that's why it's important also to divide everything you do, because if someone else sends a pull request that you also send and you're editing the same file, you're going to have a merge conflict. Because imagine that you change something and I change the same thing and we both have two different things. We have to decide which one, right? But GitHub for that provides you the tools to be able to do that. But the number one single rule is commit a lot in your own branch of that feature so that you can edit everything. You will have to sort it out by yourself, but GitHub helps you by putting things in green and red of what was changed. And you won't need to type it. You just need to click which one you want to use. We'll go and see an example on the practice. To create a pull request and some terms, how do you do it? So you literally just go and click pull request and create pull request. There's a green button that says create pull request, and it tells you to which branch you want to merge. And it usually is preset to the main. So you just click the button, create a pull request. There's other terms, okay? As I was mentioning, PR is go and create a new pull request, okay? Then describe is explaining what you're changing. So when you create that pull request, it's gonna ask you for a description. Write down, I am developing this new feature that is helping things to explode. Or I'm creating this new feature that's the comment feature someone was creating, say it, right? So this is the commenting section front end, and the person is going to receive it. And usually you have like someone dedicated to merge everything, right? In this case, it can be any of you, or if you're working in teams or alone, it can be even yourself. Always try to make yourself your own pull requests, okay? This is an advice that I found super interesting, and it's a pro advice. If you make yourself your own pull request, then you will be able to have control of your own changes. Okay, so it might sound like a bit of like, okay, why am I making my own pull requests? But it's another step for you to see the other vision of the change. Once you have made the pull request, you can go and kind of like change your person to the one reviewing it and say, does this make sense? Do I want to integrate this into my other code? Let's check it. GitHub by itself tells you there is no conflict or there is conflict. So it does an analysis and tells you you can definitely merge this, and you just click on merge. Now, these are some other terms. What I am describing to you right now is called review and merge. Okay, so everyone approves and you can merge. This is how it kind of like looks like if you want to be another pro tool in GitHub, and you can discuss about them. So if one person wants to do a comment thing and the other one doesn't want to do the same comment stuff, you can change them, okay? You can edit the thing and you can say right in there, I want to change this because I didn't like this feature. Can you guys change it? And they can set up a discussion, and it can be in GitHub. And this is because what you're trying to maximize is time on coding or time on ChatGPT helping you code. What you're trying to do, and what I really mean is, you don't want to lose time over the phone, over emails, over Slack, over Discord, chatting with your friends about a feature. You want to do your code, put your stuff on laptop, on paper, as I say, and set up a discussion about it. And a good practice is for your team to go and do the discussions in here, because everything is going to be more organized. And you're not going to be discussing 100 different things without an order. You're going to have everything with its own branch and a discussion about it. And if no one has any discussion, you merge it. That's it. Guys, questions. Someone's asking me the difference between a pull request in GitHub and git merge branch in the CLI. Okay, there is a difference between doing a pull request in the GitHub and doing a git merge whatever branch on your terminal. Okay, so if you do the pull request directly into the GitHub, you have a lot more of things to be able to add in that pull request. And you can tag people and you can create discussions. And I will absolutely recommend you do it on GitHub. Now, git merge branch in the CLI or CLI or in the terminal, it's convenient when you want to do it quickly and fast, or you're doing merges inside branches that are locally. Because you can also have different branches in your local and create a big branch to send to GitHub. Let's say I'm working on 3 features, right? That are part of the commenting example that you guys gave. So I want to have a branch for the comments. I want to have a branch for the profile, and I'm going to have a branch for Y feature that goes on the likes, right? And I want to merge all of that in one that is the comments. So I'm going to use my CLI to develop them and then merge them all into comments. And then the comments one is the one that I'm going to send to the GitHub. In order for you to create a new branch, right, in the GitHub, you need to use your terminal to push it to the GitHub. So you're using your terminal all the time, but I wouldn't recommend to use your terminal to merge stuff. And it can get super messy and it's super hard to debug well, not super hard, but it's harder than in GitHub, because in GitHub you have a whole UI that's helping you. Okay. Now, this is just a new discussion. You can start the new discussion. There's another small tool before we jump into answering like more questions and also into something I want to show you, which is the example on doing it. I want to do a question on that, and is how many of you guys use Copilot? Please put on the Q&A thing. I know the chat for some of you is still not working. Say, I have used it, or what on earth is Copilot? Because Copilot is also super important in collaboration for GitHub. And I'm going to explain a bit of like why. But I want to know, do you guys use it? Can you answer, yes, I have used it. No, I've never used it. Okay, someone never heard of it. No idea what that is. Okay. Anyone else? Someone has used it? Any of you have you ever tried? And if you have never do it, which some of you haven't, if you had, just be patient. Okay, don't worry. I'm gonna explain what it is. I know you already are a master in you're not even coding, and Copilot is doing everything. But for those of you that has never used Copilot in your entire life, what on earth is Copilot? Copilot is, I think, even created with something that you guys are probably familiar with, that it's GPT-4. So Copilot is using AI to help you code. It's auto-filling your code. So when you're doing a function, this sort of magic thing named Copilot shows you on Visual Studio Code the lines that are coming next, because he already knows what you're going to do, or he's predicting what you're going to write, and he's helping you code. So you don't have to do it yourself. It sounds crazy, but that's how it works. So I'm going to help you to install it. Okay. And my idea with this is that you use it as a tool. So on the upper right corner of any page, right, on GitHub, and if you haven't created your GitHub now, you probably should go and do your GitHub now, and create your account, and you're going to see settings. Okay. And when you click on settings, you're going to see code planning, automation, right section. So go ahead and click GitHub Copilot. And then you're going to see a settings page. You enable it. You just click enable GitHub Copilot. And you would probably need or get a free version with the student GitHub. Or if you don't, and if you need a corp, it will ask you to pay. So here's the trick. github.com/students or github.com/education, some sort of something similar to that will give you, if you're a student at high school or college, GitHub Pro kind of like starting good plan for free. So look for it online and get it. Apply with your educational email and get it, because you will have Copilot for free for like a year. Okay, so do it. And you need to just either pay or do this. And once you have it activated, you need to install it on your Visual Studio Code. So remember the extension that I was showing at the beginning? You need to use someone else's created extension. So not create an extension, but consume one. And it was created by Visual Studio Code, which is Microsoft, which are the guys who I think also own part of GitHub and GPT-4. So you get into your Visual Studio Code Marketplace. I just want to check in. Do you guys know how to access Visual Studio Code Marketplace? You say yes, or what is what is Marketplace in VS? Okay, someone heard of it, not sure. Okay, I'll show you right now how to do that. Okay, so you guys go to your Visual Studio Code. And in here, you're gonna find a marketplace, which you can also do it on top. If you look for Copilot, you're gonna find it. Oh, I'm so sorry. In here, there you go. This is your extensions. So it's the marketplace, right? And you have many different apps that you can plug in here. Even Figma, like the design tool, you can have it in here. Okay, so you can do Figma edits in here. So you don't have to go to your browser. You can just have everything in here. And the reason for that is because you want to do sometimes coding stuff, but that's not the point. The point is this: GitHub Copilot. So you go into your marketplace extension. You can also hit, I think it's Control-Command-X, right, to go to your extensions or the marketplace, and you're gonna find kind of like a big description on how to download these things. So it's not an issue. It's not hard to do. It's not something impossible. But that's the magic of this. If you wanna, for example, make a code and define a function, it will suggest you stuff so that you only click tap, and it will just create a code. Okay. What you can do, you can convert the comments to code. Okay. So you can click like, hey, I want to do this, and it will create it. It will create it for you. Here it's telling you, I want you to get the Goodreads key from the environmental variable. If it's not there, then bail it. You comment something, and GitHub Copilot codes the thing for you. Isn't it amazing? I'm just trying to get on if we understood what GitHub Copilot is. Can you guys tell me now I know what it is, or I still have no clue? Okay, you guys know what it is. Perfect. Anyone who didn't know what it is that already kind of get it, I just want to know if you got the idea. Copilot does work with other libraries. So it can also code other things, not only the basic stuff. Can you guys just really put like, yes, I got it. so I can move on. Or if someone still has a question and hasn't got that, this thing will code everything. Okay, people got it, got it. Okay, now you can, okay, wait, there is like to which one? Andrew, what do you mean? Oh, it's the one that, yeah, that's also an important thing, guys. Make sure you are installing the extension of github.com, which is verified, and it's like, again, made by Microsoft. Because, or github.com, actually, it has like 8,645 downloads. That's the one you wanna kind of like, you know, do it. Should you use Copilot when you're coding, or is it like cheating? You should. So it depends if like on the program, if it's telling you like, please do not use Copilot. But if you are developing an app yourself, like if you're actually doing probably work out on the real world, people use Copilot. It's not like something crazy, okay? It can create unit tests. So that's super interesting, right? You can use it to kind of like write unit test rules. And here's like a function that already computes some like prefix of like different lists, and they test it on creating like that unit test. You can create a SQL query, okay? That's hell of a thing, because most of us probably have not been used to SQL too much. And let me tell you, you don't need to. It's awesome if you do, but GitHub Copilot knows how to create a query. Now, that's pretty much about the Copilot explanation that I wanted to give to you guys today. How important is Copilot? Can we just import the code? Yes, you can only import the code. Copilot is just a tool to make you be able to do things faster, okay? That's something I want to make clear. Just trying to see if there's more questions at the end. We're also going to have like a space for more questions. So if you guys have any other thing that you want to talk, we can do it at the end. I'm going to go ahead and kind of like start with the real life example of all of this, which is on Clea. Clea is a company that I used to start this a small project around the nutrition guru on AI that was like a chatbot for you to order your groceries and be able to get like healthy recommendations, right? And that's pretty much like what I wanted to jump in. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen on GitHub and show you guys a real example of all of what I did. If you haven't paid attention the whole thing, and if you have no clue about what I just said, follow up with me, bear with me 10 minutes, and hopefully you will understand a lot more while seeing me show you an example of how these things look like, okay? So I'm gonna start completely from scratch from GitHub. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you right now and show you. This is just a dashboard of GitHub once you get into GitHub. If you don't believe me, I can prove it to you. I'm gonna go ahead and go into GitHub and get into my github.com. That's all it is right there. Okay, so you're gonna see a lot of people 16 hours ago, forked activities and stuff, things that I follow. You're gonna see your profile, you're gonna see your organizations in here. So I have two organizations that are showing out there, Superplants and Clea. And I can go and click Clea. Okay. So Clea, it's one that has 7 branches and it hasn't been moved. It has 2 people working on that. It has 2% of Python, 97% it's a Jupyter notebook. And then it's just a shell that has like commands. So I don't have to type this stuff all the time. That's a pro tip as well that I will talk about when we're exploring this. So the README. Here's the README we talked about. Remember, the README says Clea, what is Clea, the features, some of the requirements that your laptop needs to have to clone this. And then your test environment, it has some of the commands. What are commands? This is for pros. Commands are this shell stuff that I created here, 0.2, that have command inside so that you don't have to start your server every single time and write it down every single time. These commands I always forgot. I never remember them. I'm lazy. So what did I do? I said, okay, look, if my branch, then start my branch, git checkout to my branch. Why is that awesome? Okay. It's because I can then just go ahead and on my terminal, on my CLI, say start.sh, and it will run this command. So I don't have to say like git checkout to the other branch or git start or those things. If I want to stop, right, my session, instead of writing kill -9, all of this, I write stop.sh and it will stop my session. Okay. If I want to go into my last version, I have this git checkout and then I git pull, because that's the command to do your last version, to restart. Then to version it. Okay. So most of the time you have to do a git checkout. You have to do git add dot, which means git add all of my changes. And then you do the commit, git commit am, and then you write the name of your commit. And then you do a git push to send it to GitHub. If you don't want to do these 4 commands every single time you want to do a change, you can create an sh file like this. And then you just click git version r/git, and it will do all of those 4. Is that clear? That's a pro tip I wanted to mention before I start to show the rest. It's fine if some of you are like, I don't get that part, but it's just an extra thing for those that you already are familiar with GitHub. Okay. Now, I want to show how a repository looks like. So this is a bunch of files, right? And here you have the branches. So when I am talking about branches, this is what I'm talking about. I have the developer branch, development, which is the one that I merge everything else, and then the main. Okay. So the function about the products that I was telling to you before, this is the branch in here. Then I have like some barcodes that's on development. This is some updated prompts because I'm using GPT to send a message based on a barcode of a product. And then I send everything to development. Okay. So this has like 479 commits that were sent by Danilo. Okay. And here I can show you what Danilo changed. He put out all of these things that is in red, and he put in the things that are in green. Why? Because he saw that it wasn't important and he was debugging everything, and he did those changes and send them. I can write and leave a comment of what he did in here, which is important to collaborate. Then I can see other commits of the development branch. So I can come here on development and I can click commits, and it will show me with the name that I put, my whole history in June. Okay. So I know that in June the 6th, Danilo made a commit, another commit. Here is your like commit details and the like name of that commit, and you can copy it. Okay, you can copy the SHA of that commit, and you can also browse how your repository was when it committed this, so you can restore it. This is cool because you don't have to be afraid of making an error if you commit, because everything you commit, you can always go back to it. Okay. Now, if you follow all of this, you will see someone updated the language. I updated the language, and it was verified commit. Nothing was going to happen. And Danilo committed some handling, some testing. And then Danilo merged a branch, the main into the. Why? Because he wanted to take the things that were on the production to development and mix them with something else. Okay. Now, there's other people that were kind of like touching the code in here, and you can see who is actually coding. So you can see that Nando tried to implement something called Very AI, and then Danilo tried to fix the bugs that Nando had, and then Danilo debugged it, he tested, and then he sent the first message to Very AI. So he was actually able to help him on that same task of Berry AI. But it was because we were implementing the thing. So you can see, what did Nando? Nando imported the request. Nando was trying to take out some of the other stuff. He called an endpoint, and then he did some debugging. He changed some of the error handling in here, and then he stopped and he sent it. And then Danilo took that same file and he changed the mistakes that Nando had. And it can be small stuff like this one. Nando had this, he added a space. That's it. He had a phone, then he'll probably make this a variable. So the phone is not there. He took it out, he put the phone in a variable, more safer way, and committed and pushed the changes. And we kept going. And that happens fast. Okay. Now, you have other branches that are all going like that with different people adding stuff to these branches. That's all it is. If you want to contribute, you can open a pull request. So in here, I would click contribute and it will take my development branch to the main, and the same with everything else. Now, how does a pull request look like? You go to pull request. Here is one that I created. This one wasn't available to merge. That's why I didn't merge it. So you create a pull request and it will analyze. You saw that it charged. It was analyzing if there was any conflicting file. In this case, I changed something that someone else also changed. So I would have to click on resolve the conflicts. And I can ask someone to review it. And this was my comment. I said, hey, I created this information of products because many users were trying to ask about products without sending images. This is a general GPT prompt answer, but it's good for now. Please check for errors and bugs, but it should be okay. Nando and Danilo. This separates the function of this recipe at the same time as this one. I give a context, right? My context is what I was doing in here. What files did I change? What did I commit? And that way, people are able to see clearly and inspect clearly all of the changes that I did. So you're not coming back and forth with, should we trust what he did? Because you're going to see exactly what he did in an easy way to understand that. I'm not going to get into the depth of how to handle the conflicts. I want you to kind of like struggle a bit with that because that's how you learn. But click resolve conflicts. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and open up for questions. If you have never copied a repository, and that's also a question that you have, where it says code, you will find different ways to copy it. You can just click HTTPS, copy this, go into your CLI or terminal and say git clone and paste this. Now, if you have an SSH key to do it more securely, you can also do that with the SSH, or you can literally go on GitHub CLI, which is its own CLI from GitHub, and copy this and just clone it. Or you can get into Visual Studio Code, connect it with GitHub, and bring the repo directly that you want, okay? These are code spaces. This was what I was explaining really at the beginning. You can create a code space in development. So if you don't want to code it like on your laptop, you can always code it in a code space. This is kind of like Replit. I don't know if you guys have used Replit before. You can also use Replit. And there's a lot of documentation around how to develop in a code space, okay? So this code space, imagining it like an actual drive, like where everyone is just changing at the same time, but you're actually all changing a virtual machine inside GitHub, kind of. Okay, so it's live. It's a bit more complicated than Replit to use, okay? So I would encourage you to look for Replit. I'm gonna just write it down on the chat for everyone how this other tool can also help, which is called Replit. Replit is amazing. It is. The reason why I didn't talk about Replit the whole talk, it's because I wanted to focus on GitHub and the basics, but we could definitely try to do something later or kind of like go inside a session or videos, and you can learn about Replit. It's super easy to use. So have a look at Replit for this code space stuff, because in GitHub, it's a bit tough to do it. You can follow this documentation to do it. This was what I was showing you at the beginning. You can use a template and you will avoid doing everything that I just explained today. But I also found important a lot that you know the basics. This was, someone was asking about this, kind of like allows you to create repos from an extension. That was a question. Someone is sending another question. We're gonna go ahead and kind of like jump to questions already. I think we have something as well before the Q&A, and there's some notes from like the hackathon team itself, and it's like, you have a team registration that's open until September the 7th. So register your team, know who you're gonna work with, ask them, meet them, and try to have a team for September the 7th. Then your project will be released on September 14th. So that's in about 10, 11 days from now. We want you to be coding. We want you to actually get on the code and get on the team and get to use what you have learned today to collaborate with other people. And reach out to any inbox or Discord if anything is not clear, if anything in here it's not what you guys were expecting, or if you have questions to how awesome it was, or what else you want to learn, just feel free to put them on the Discord or our inbox as well. I'm gonna leave you guys with my email or like social media and stuff at the end, so you can also shoot me out with questions, if you need any. I want to announce on like upcoming events that we have. So on Sunday night at 9 p.m. we have a like Python analyzing data session that's going to be also important. We're going to have like Figma and how to be on a great guy at Figma. I'm also a designer, and I think that's one of the things that will really take out all the potential of this, so you code less and do more. And then you're designing with a purpose, another on September the 9th, right after the one of Figma on how do you create your own product. And then you will have the next day one on storytelling and data and visualizing everything with Tableau, which is an amazing tool to do data science. You can see maps around stuff, you can see how to integrate them, and it will be really, really great to do. And then at the end, one about your solution and how do you tell this story, and how everything else that you're doing kind of like creates a pitch and a compelling way to show people what you built. So those are the sessions. And now we get to almost the end of the webinar today. I want to thank you all for being so active on the Q&A during the session, and kind of like asking questions, saying, yes, I did this, saw this, I was able to do this or not. Thank you a lot for that. And I just want to open for any questions. And there's already one about, I think it's better to create shell aliases to manage Git repos like alias, git add, git commit. So we use a few keystrokes on every commit. Meanwhile, yes, that is super, super interesting. That's what I was doing. It's more of a like a pro advice, but you will eventually get there if you're started. And is you don't have to learn the whole commands. You won't. It's hard. There are a lot of commands, right? So if you create an alias, that's it, right? So you're going to be able to do everything and just have like a different name. So you know that you need to commit, and you can even do an alias of commit. That's what I would suggest, because to be able to commit something fast, you will have to have like git add dot and then another one. So if you just write commit, it will run all of that. So it really make things a lot easier. That's what you're trying to do. Again, be lazy, try to break things, but the actual thing you have to break, and not just like keep doing the same thing all the time and struggling with the same command. If you're doing something repetitive again and again and again, ask yourself, how can I do this only once? Okay. And that's the way to go. Is there any other question, guys, that you would like to address or anything? There's one more. For Copilot, there is one GitHub and one in Visual Studio Code. Do I use both or not, or one? If one, which one? Is the VS one free? So you need to use Copilot. You can use Copilot of GitHub or Copilot of Visual Studio Code. I would use the GitHub one. I think that one's great. There's many reasons for. So if you had to choose one, I would choose the one from GitHub. And that's something that I would love to just use a bit of the time that we have left on that. GitHub has a student kind of like, it's not even a discount. It's like, again, it's free. So that's my favorite price. When you have, look, GitHub student, just type GitHub student, and you will find a developer pack. Okay, so this thing costs $150 per month, and if you're a student and have like a student email, you can get it for free. It's called GitHub Student Developer Pack, and it gives you a lot of things. Okay, so I think you can even have like domains for free. Okay, you can have GitHub code spaces, which is the one we were talking. You can have GitHub pages. You can have a better version of Visual Studio Code, MongoDB. All of this is coming for you as a student, thanks to GitHub. They even have like 6 free months of like private replits on Replit. Okay. So Replit was the other tool we were talking about that helps you to do the code spaces. They give you 6 free months of that, which cost, because you will need to deploy stuff and they're allowing you to have them. Okay. And you have like $1,000 free of fees on Stripe if you start selling stuff. You have Typeform free professional for 1 year. You have a set of really great tools and you just need to apply. So sign up, okay? Sign up, put your student email. If you stay until the end, that's something great that you were able to get from the webinar. So that's pretty much everything that I have for you guys today. If there is no more questions, I think that's it. And I would like to thank you all for being today on the webinar. Thank you as well. I do have a
This
link
was
there. Yeah, someone's at. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
yeah. This was amazing, Daniel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, all the time. I'm gonna leave you with the LinkedIn because someone asked it for me, and just feel free to pop up like a message if you need anything. I'll more than happy to help you guys. Just leave it over there. Just if you want to send a message, and probably leave Instagram and an email for you guys to reach out. Okay. I'll see you guys. Have a good rest of your day, night, or whatever you are, and just keep coding and keep coding intelligently. Just remember that. See you.